Okay, Assalamu alaikum students. So let's get started with IGCSE Physics, May June 2023, Paper 2, Variant 3. This is a 45 minutes paper. This is an MCQs based paper. So let's get started with it. The speed time graph shows the motion of an object. How far does the object travels at constant speed? So first of all, you need to remember one simple key point. कौन सा key point लिखने वाला हूँ for the regular viewers? You might know the area under speed time graph is equals to your distance. Beta, area under speed time graph is equals to your distance. You have to calculate how far does the object travel at constant speed. Constant speed वाला कौन सा region है? ये region. How far is the object traveling when it is at the constant speed? आपने area under the graph निकालना है when you are traveling at constant speed. How will you calculate this area under the graph? The length is 10, height is 5. Multiply कर दो. 10 into 5, this is a rectangle. The area comes out to be 50 meters. B is your answer. Which statement about a falling object accelerating? Okay, so the velocity is increasing close to the earth's surface is correct. अच्छा जी, कौन सा statement about an object that is accelerating close to the earth's surface is correct? Okay. The weight of the object is increasing, never ever. Weight can never ever increase. The weight of the object and the force of air resistance of the object are of equal magnitude नहीं. अगर आपका weight और force of air resistance equal magnitude का हो जाता है तो क्या होता है? Your velocity becomes constant. But here can you realize your velocity is increasing? That's not possible. The weight of the object is constant but the force of air resistance is increasing. This is possible. बेटा आपका ऑब्जेक्ट का वेट कांस्टेंट ही रहता है हमेशा. आपकी एयर रेजिस्टेंस की फोर्स इंक्रीज कर सकती है. व्हाई? बिकॉज एज योर वेलोसिटी इज इंक्रीजिंग द फोर्स ऑफ एयर रेजिस्टेंस आल्सो इंक्रीजेस. सी इज योर आंसर. Perfect. An aircraft is moving 60 meters per second in the north direction like this. Okay. This is 60 meters per second. When a crosswind starts to blow from east, ठीक है, from east starts to blow, ठीक है, the speed of the wind is 13 meters per second. Beta, for your information, this is north, this is south, this is east, this is west. If you realize wind starts to blow from the east, तो wind east से west की तरफ जा रही है. What is the speed of the wind? The speed of the wind is 13 meters per second. What is the magnitude of the aircraft's velocity? अच्छा जी, हमने resultant velocity निकालनी है बेटा. How will we calculate the resultant velocity? From here till here. This is your resultant velocity. ये आपका 90 डिग्री का एंगल आ गया. How will you calculate the resultant velocity? Resultant is equals to 13 का स्क्वायर प्लस 60 का स्क्वायर टेकन अंडर रूट. बताओ भाई रिजल्टेंट वेलोसिटी क्या आ जाएगी बेटा? 13 स्क्वायर प्लस 60 स्क्वायर taken under root. Resultant velocity comes out to be 61 meters per second. C is your answer. Two rectangular blocks consist of different materials. Four different methods are suggested to compare the two masses. अच्छा जी, four different methods suggest हुए to compare the two masses. Compare the accelerations. Compare the acceleration with which they free fall. No. Compare the value of their lengths. No. This compares the volume. नहीं, ये नहीं करना. Hang each of them from the same spring, compare their extension. Yes, that's possible. बेटा अगर आप दोनों मासेस को स्प्रिंग से अटैच कर दो, लेट्स से दिस इज मास x, let's say this is mass y. If you attach both of them from the springs, what will happen? You can compare the extensions and calculate their masses. Yeah, this is correct. Place one in the right hand pan of beam balance and other in the left hand pan of beam balance. Yes, beam balance is always used to measure the masses. So your fourth method is also correct. 3 and 4 will be your answer. C is your answer. Let's further move ahead. An object in the space above the earth weighs 3.5 Newton. Okay. So let's make some partitions here. In the space, your weight is 3.5 Newton. The gravitational field strength in space is what? Space में आपकी gravitational field strength क्या है बेटा? 7 Newton per kg. Can you calculate the mass of the object? Yes. Weight is equals to mg. Weight kya hai? 3.5. You have to calculate mass. Gravitational field strength is 7. Mass comes out to be 3.7. 3.5 divided by 7, that is 0.5 kg. अब आप अर्थ पे वेट भी निकाल लो. Your mass comes out to be 0.5 kg. Now you also have to calculate the weight on earth. How will you do that? Weight is equals to mg. Mass kya hai? 0.5. Gravitation field strength kya hai? 9.8. Here it is written. The weight comes out to be 4.9 Newton. B is your answer. Let's move on to question number 6. Actually, a cyclist is traveling in a straight line along a horizontal road at constant speed. बेटा अगर आप कांस्टेंट स्पीड पे ट्रैवल कर रहे हो तो व्हाट डज दिस मीन? योर फॉरवर्ड फोर्सेस will be equal to the backward forces. If you are traveling at constant speed, bacha, forward forces is equal to the backward forces. A constant driving force F, this is the forward force, acts on the cyclist in the forward direction. ये लिखा हुआ भी है. Which statement about the magnitude of the frictional force acting on the cyclist is correct? First of all, always remember friction opposes motion. So if your cyclist is traveling in the forward direction, बच्चा अगर आपका cyclist forward direction में travel कर रहा है, where will the friction force act? Friction force will act backward like this. Okay. What is the magnitude of the frictional force? The magnitude of the frictional force will be equal to the forward force F is your answer. Then only you will reach constant speed. Forward force backward force के जब equal हो जाएगी, then only you will reach constant speed. Frictional force always opposes motion. If you are moving in the forward direction, frictional force will act backward. A spring has an unstretched length of 3 centimeter. Okay. When a force of 60 Newton is applied to the string, its length increases to 5 centimeter. What is the spring constant? Okay, so you have to calculate the value of K. But can you realize the length of the spring has gone from 3 centimeter to 5 centimeter? What is the extension? 2 centimeter. आपकी इनिशियल लेंथ ऑफ द स्प्रिंग 3 सेंटीमीटर थी. एज यू अप्लाइड 6 न्यूटन की फोर्स, लेंथ 5 सेंटीमीटर हो गई. कैन यू रियलाइज द एक्सटेंशन इज 2 सेंटीमीटर. द फोर्स इज 60 न्यूटन. कैन यू कैलकुलेट स्प्रिंग कांस्टेंट? एफ इज इक्वल टू के ई. फोर्स आ गई 60, के हमें नहीं पता, एक्सटेंशन इज 2, के कम्स आउट टू बी 30 न्यूटन पर सेंटीमीटर. डी इज योर आंसर. आगे बढ़ते हैं बेटा. Okay, so let's see this question. The diagram shows the minimum force F1 acting vertically on a lever required to lift a heavy log weight W. The log needs to be lifted by a smaller force than F1. Okay, so what is happening here? Let's examine. So basically you have a force F1 that is generating basically a clockwise movement. This is weight W that is generating an anti-clockwise movement. This is your distance between force F1 and the pivot D1. This is your distance between the weight and the pivot, that is distance D2. Okay. If you want to lift the log, the anti-clockwise moment should be equal to clockwise moment. ठीक है. अब clockwise moment किसके equal होते हैं? F1 into D1. As you can see, force F1 is generating a clockwise movement. The force F1 is acting at a distance of D1 from the pivot. Simple. Now, you want to lift the log with a smaller force than F1. और अगर आपने लॉग को लिफ्ट करना है तो क्लॉकवाइज मोमेंट तो वही रहेंगे. यू वांट टू कीप द क्लॉकवाइज मोमेंट कांस्टेंट बट यू नीड अ स्मॉलर फोर्स. व्हाट कैन हैपन हियर? सो लेट्स अज्यूम clockwise moment divided by F1 is equals to D1. You want the clockwise moment to remain constant but want to reduce F1. Can you realize force becomes inversely proportional to the distance? So let's see if we have any options like that in which if we can increase the distance, the force F1 decreases. Let's see. Okay, let's examine option P. Increasing the length of the lever to the right of the pivot. Yeah, you are increasing this length. आप distance d1 को increase कर रहे हो. So as you can see from this inverse proportionality relationship, as the distance d1 increases, force F1 will decrease. P is the correct option. Let's see option Q. Applying the force perpendicular to the lever. What will this do? Applying the force perpendicular to the lever, this is also doing a very important fact. यहाँ पे you can write a key point. Maximum movements are generated when force is perpendicular perpendicular to the rod or to the meter rule, whatever you want to say. Beta, in the original diagram, can you realize F1 was acting at an angle of theta? This wasn't generating maximum moments. बेटा यहाँ पे जब F1 at an angle of theta लग रही थी, you were generating medium amount of moments. To generate maximum moments, force must be perpendicular to the lever to the rod. Q is your answer as well. Let's see if you have any option P and Q. Yes, P is your answer. Simple. R cannot be your answer because in R you are decreasing D1. Your distance from the pivot to the lever is decreasing. If your distance decreases, your force must increase. R is not your option. Let's further move ahead. A ball of mass 0.25 kg hits a wall at a speed of 16 meters per second. It then rebounds back along its original path at a speed of 12 meters per second. What is the impulse experienced by the ball? Let's draw a diagram. So let's say this is your wall. Okay. You have this ball of 0.25 kg. Okay. This is traveling towards the wall with a speed of 16 meters per second. ये rebound कर जाती है with a velocity of 12 meters per second. Can you calculate the impulse? Impulse निकाल सकते हो. Impulse is equals to what? Change in momentum. How can you calculate change in momentum? Mass into change in velocity. Now, can you realize change in velocity को आप इस तरह लिख सकते हो फाइनल माइनस इनिशियल? यस. मास क्या है? 0.25. What is your final velocity? This is your final position or the final velocity acting towards the left. Beta, this final velocity is acting towards the left. We will take it as negative 12. This initial velocity is acting towards the right. We will take it as positive 16. What does your answer comes out to be? 0.25 into negative 28. आंसर बताओ. नेगेटिव 7 न्यूटन सेकेंड आ रहा है. D is your answer. You can ignore the sign. Whenever you are calculating impulse, whenever you are calculating moment, you can ignore the sign because the sign just tells you about the direction that the impulse is acting towards the left. Nothing more. A bicycle braking system transfers energy from a kinetic energy store to an internal energy store. A motor converts energy from a chemical energy store to a kinetic energy store. What enables these energy transfers? अच्छा जी. बेटा जब आप काइनेटिक से इंटरनल एनर्जी में जा रहे हो एंड यू आर अप्लाइंग ब्रेक, व्हाट टाइप ऑफ वर्क आर यू डूइंग? मैकेनिकल वर्क. बाइक जो है आपको स्टॉप करने के लिए मैकेनिकल वर्क कर रही है. However, when you are going from chemical energy to a kinetic energy source and your motor is converting your chemical energy into a kinetic energy, which type of work is getting done? हाँ जी. मोटर किस तरह का वर्क करेगी? आपकी बाईसाइकिल को चलाने के लिए मोटर किस तरह का वर्क करेगी? इलेक्ट्रिकल वर्क. D is your answer to this. Research is being carried out to produce electrical energy from the fusion of hydrogen nuclei. Which row shows two of the problems in designing a fusion reactor? बेटा फ्यूजन रिएक्टर के लिए आपको टेम्परेचर वेरी हाई चाहिए होता है. ए और बी कैंसिल कर दो. एंड व्हाई डू यू नीड अ वेरी हाई टेम्परेचर? Because the two nuclei of hydrogen are positively charged and they repel each other. D is your answer. The engine of a motor vehicle develops a large power. Power का क्या formula होता है? Power is equals to energy over time. If you want to develop a large power, which statement is correct? The driving force on the vehicle must be large? No. The engine must have a large volume? No. The engine must transfer large amounts of energy? C is your answer. आपकी एनर्जी अगर ज़्यादा होगी तो पावर ऑटोमेटिकली ज़्यादा हो जाएगी. The graph shows how the pressure due to liquid varies with the depth beneath the liquid surface. The gravitational field strength is 9.8. What is the density of the liquid? You have to calculate the density of the liquid. How will you do that? First of all, do you remember this formula? Pressure is equals to rho GH. Can you see pressure is plotted on the y-axis? Depth is plotted on the x-axis. The gradient of this graph is equals to what? Density into gravitational field distance. Beta, gradient of this graph is equals to density into gravitational field distance. Can we calculate the gradient? Yes. This is 1.0, 0. दूसरा पॉइंट क्या हो जाएगा ये? 0.5, 400. Can you calculate the gradient? Yes. 4000 minus 0, 0.5 minus 0 is equals to density into gravitational field strength. This comes out to be 8000 density into 9.81. Can you calculate the density? 8000 divided by 9.81. Sorry, 9.8. You will take gravitational field strength as 9.8. My bad. 8000 divided by 9.8. What does your answer comes out to be? 816 kg per meter cube. Any close enough answers? Yes, B is your answer. 820 kg per meter cube. Actually, what is the lowest possible temperature? Absolute zero. And what happens to the energy of the particles at this temperature? The lowest possible temperature is negative 273, and the particles have least kinetic energy at this temperature. A is your answer. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Which statement about the particles of a substance after condensation is correct? भाई कंडेंसेशन के बाद आपके पार्टिकल्स के लिए कौन सा स्टेटमेंट करेक्ट है? इन कंडेंसेशन व्हाट हैपेंस? योर गैस टर्न्स इनटू अ लिक्विड. If your gas turns into a liquid, the particles will come close to each other. C and D gets cancelled out. And they slide over each other. This is the motion of a liquid. बेटा लिक्विड में मॉलिक्यूल्स या पार्टिकल्स एक दूसरे के ऊपर स्लाइड करते हैं. इफ योर गैस इज कंडेंसिंग टू अ लिक्विड, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल पार्टिकल्स कम क्लोज टुगेदर एंड दे स्लाइड ओवर ईच अदर. ए इज योर आंसर. Two otherwise identical cars, one black and one white, are at same initial temperature. The cars are left in bright sunshine and their temperature increases. During the night, their temperature decreases. Which car shows the greater rate of temperature increase? Which car shows the greater rate of temperature decrease? बेटा किस कार में ग्रेटर रेट ऑफ टेम्परेचर इंक्रीज होगा, किस कार में ग्रेटर रेट ऑफ टेम्परेचर डिक्रीज होगा? यू हैव वन ब्लैक एंड वन वाइट कार. Do you remember black surfaces are good absorbers and good emitters of heat? हाँ जी, ये बात याद है. ब्लैक सर्फेसेज आर गुड एब्जॉर्बर, गुड emitters ऑफ हीट. तो सबसे ज़्यादा टेम्परेचर राइज किस में आएगा? ब्लैक सर्फेसेज में. सबसे ज़्यादा टेम्परेचर डिक्रीज भी किस में आएगा? ब्लैक सर्फेसेज में, बिकॉज दे आर गुड एब्जॉर्बर्स, हेंस दे हैव अ ग्रेटर टेम्परेचर इंक्रीज. सिंस दे आर गुड emitters, they have a greater temperature decrease. A drop of water from a tap falls onto the surface of some water of constant depth. Water waves spread out on the surface of water. ठीक है. Which statement is correct? Well, no, longitudinal तो नहीं होती. Water waves are always transverse wave. You can easily cancel out option A and B. They are very absurd. The water waves are transverse and travel at same speed in all directions. Yes, C is your answer. चलो जी आगे बढ़ते. Each point F is one focal length from the center of the lens. Each point 2F is two focal lengths from the center of the lens, which diagram shows the converging lens being used as a magnifying glass. Always remember, magnifying glass produces virtual images. Now, sir, what do you mean by virtual images? वर्चुअल इमेजेस में क्या होता है? इमेज एंड ऑब्जेक्ट आर ऑन द सेम साइड। इमेज एंड ऑब्जेक्ट आर ऑन द सेम साइड। क्या ए में ऐसा हो रहा है? इमेज इज ऑन द लेफ्ट साइड, sorry, object is on the left side, image is on the right side? No. Object is on the left side, image is on the right side? No, this is not a virtual image. Object is on the left side, you cannot find the image, image is at infinity. D देखो, object is on the left, image is also at the left. D is your answer for a magnifying glass. Always remember, magnifying glass produces virtual images. In virtual images, image and object are on the same side. There is only one option like that. D is your answer. A monochromatic ray of green light in air enters a glass block. Which property of light always remains the same as it moves from air to glass? बेटा कौन सी property of light will remain same as it moves from air to glass? Frequency. C is your answer. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Okay. A narrow beam of white light passes through a prism and is dispersed into a spectrum. Which row is correct? कौन सी row correct है? Do you remember the acronym? Wib, Geur. This is violet. This is indigo. This is blue. This is green. This is yellow. This is orange. And this is red. You must remember that red bends least and violet bends most. And as you move down this acronym, yeah, as you move down from violet to red, the bending decreases. Okay. सो कलर थ्री जो है वो सबसे ज्यादा बेंड करना चाहिए. विच इज कलर थ्री? यू कैन से या ब्लू. ब्लू कैन बी कलर थ्री दैट इज बेंडिंग द मोस्ट. या कलर टू जो है वो कम बेंड करना चाहिए, दैट इज येलो. या परफेक्ट. एंड कलर वन शुड बेंड द लीस्ट. या रेड. सी इज योर आंसर. अदर ऑप्शंस हैव जम्बल्ड अप, लाइक इफ यू सी ऑप्शन ए. ऑप्शन ए में इफ आई टेक कलर वन एज ब्लू, it is not possible because blue bends the most. It should be at the bottom. Cancel out. Option B को देख लो, red. Red is correct. Then you have color 2, that is blue, which is bending medium amount से, but blue हमें पता है blue bends the most. It should be in the place of color 3. So yeah, C is your answer. A student writes four statements matching a communication system to the region of the electromagnetic spectrum that it uses to transmit signals. Which statement is correct? Wireless internet uses visible wavelengths? No. Mobile phones uses X-rays? No. Cable televisions uses infrared wavelengths? Yes. A ship sounds its horn 790 meters from a cliff. A passenger on the ship hears the echo 4.8 seconds later. What is the speed of the sound? You have to calculate the speed of the sound. How will you do that? Let's say you are standing here 790 meters away from the cliff. Beta, how will you hear an echo? How will you hear an echo? Sound पहले cliff पे जाएगा. It will get reflected back from the cliff like this. And the total time taken is 4.8 seconds. What is the total distance? Total distance क्या है बेटा? 790 plus 790, that equals to what? हाँ जी, ये क्या हो जाएगा? 7 790 plus 790, this will be, I think, 1580. Let me do it in a calculator as well. Yeah, 790 plus 790, this comes out to be 1580. Perfect. What is your total time? 4.8 seconds. Can you calculate the speed? Speed is equals to distance over time. The speed comes out to be 330 meters per second. B is your answer. ठीक है? So how did we did this? A ship sounds a horn 790 meter from the cliff. ठीक है भाई, शिप ने हॉर्न मारा 790 मीटर फ्रॉम द क्लिफ. The sound goes and reflects back from the cliff. What is the total distance traveled? 790 plus 790, that is 1580. What is the total time? 4.8. Divide kar do. The speed comes out to be 330. Which row gives the metal used to make the core of an electromagnet and one property of an electromagnet? भाई core of an electromagnet किस मटेरियल से बनाते हैं हम? आयरन से. What is the property of the core? Temporary magnet. B is your answer. A plastic rod and cloth are uncharged. The rod is now rubbed with the cloth and they both become charged. The rod becomes negatively charged. Rod क्या हो रहा है? Negatively charged हो रही है. Okay. What is the charge on the cloth and which particles moved in the charging process? Always remember कौन से particles move करते हैं? Electrons. The rod becomes negatively charged. इसका मतलब क्या है? Cloth क्या हो जाएगा? Positively charged. If one object is becoming negatively charged, the other will become positively charged. Charge on the cloth is positive, which is the particles that are moving. Electrons. C is your answer. A student does an experiment to investigate the resistance of a metal wire. The graph shows the result from the experiment. What is plotted on the x-axis? बेटा क्या आपको याद है रेजिस्टेंस वाज इनवर्सली प्रोपोर्शनल टू एरिया, है ना? तो एक्स एक्सिस पे हम क्या प्लॉट कर सकते हैं? एक्स एक्सिस पे वी कैन प्लॉट एरिया. वी कैन ऑल्सो प्लॉट अ टर्म रिलेटेड टू एरिया, दैट इज डायमीटर. बेटा डायमीटर भी एरिया से ही रिलेटेड टर्म है ना? वी ऑल्सो हैव स्टडीड दैट रेजिस्टेंस इज इनवर्सली प्रोपोर्शनल टू डायमीटर का स्क्वायर. तो वी कैन प्लॉट डायमीटर ऑन द एक्स एक्सिस एज वेल. इज देयर एनी आंसर्स लाइक दैट? ए इज योर आंसर. ओके. The cost of electrical energy is $0.25 for each unit of 1 kilowatt hour. Okay. A heater has a power of this and is switched on for 48 minutes. First of all, let's calculate the energy. Energy is equals to power into time. बेटा अब आपने यहाँ पे एनर्जी निकालनी है in terms of kilowatt hours. What will you do? You will convert your power into kilowatts. Always remember, if you have to convert your power from watts into kilowatts, you will divide it by 1000. You also have to convert your time into hours. जब भी आप मिनट से hours में convert करना चाह रहे हो, what will you do? Divide by 60. So convert your time into hours as well. What does your energy comes out to be? Energy आपकी क्या आ गई बेटा? The energy comes out to be 1.76 kilowatt hours. Simple. Whenever you have to calculate the energy in terms of kilowatt hours, you make sure कि आपकी power kilowatts में हो और आपका time hours में हो. Then only your energy can come out to be in kilowatt hours. Now, 1 kilowatt hour is equals to $0.25. 1.76 किलोवाट आवर्स कितने डॉलर्स के इक्वल होगा? एक्स क्रॉस मल्टीप्लाई आंसर इनटू 0.25, $0.44. ए इज योर आंसर. सिंपल. आगे देखते हैं. द टेबल shows 4 different resistance wire. They are all made from the same metal. Which has the smallest resistance? Okay, so you have to remember two things. Resistance is directly proportional to length and resistance is inversely proportional to area. The smaller the length, the smaller the length, the smaller the resistance. ठीक है, जितनी स्मॉलर लेंथ होगी उतनी स्मॉल रेजिस्टेंस होगी. व्हाट अबाउट एरिया? द लार्जर द एरिया, because they are inversely proportional, the larger the area, the smaller the resistance are. Okay. सो बेटा ऑप्शन ए बी सी में से लेंथ किसकी सबसे कम है? ए और बी की. ओके. डायमीटर या एरिया किसका सबसे ज्यादा है? ऑप्शन बी का. B is your answer. B has the smallest length, greatest diameter, or the greatest area. B has the smallest resistance. B is your answer. The circuit contains three switches and four lamps PQ and RS. Which switch must be closed to light up only lamp P and R? अच्छा जी आपने P और R को light up करना है. So let's say the circuit starts here. You have to close switch 1 and अगर आपने R भी light करना है तो yeah, I think you only have to close switch 1. Can you see yellow highlighted area में सिर्फ switch 1 आ रहा है तो you only have to close switch 1. A is your answer. अच्छा जी, the diagram shows the magnetic field around a solenoid carrying an electric current. Perfect. What happens to the strength of magnetic field and the distance between the field lines when the current is increased? जब current increase होगा तो strength of magnetic field increases. A और B cancel out. What happens to the distance between the field lines? Decreases. C is your answer. Okay, the diagram shows a wire hanging freely between the poles of a magnet. There is a current in the wire in the direction shown. The magnet and the current causes a force to act on the wire. In which direction does the force act? हमने निकालना है किस डायरेक्शन में फोर्स एक्ट करेगी. Always remember, whenever you have to calculate the direction of force, you will apply Fleming's left hand rule. Now, how will you apply Fleming's left hand rule? Magnetic field from north to south. First finger from north to south. Current going downward. Where will your force or where will your thumb point? Into the page like this. I think I will have to open the camera to show this. Okay. So I hope you can see my left hand. Magnetic field is going from left to right like this. Current is going downward. Your force points inward like this. Magnetic field north to south. Current downward. Force inwards. A is your answer. Simple. Now I will be closing the camera. Really camera shy. Which components form part of a DC motor but not part of an AC generator? In a DC motor, you have split ring commutators. D is your answer. A transformer has 5500 turns on the primary coil. This is NP. And 500 turns on the secondary coil. This is NS. The output of the secondary voltage is this. This is VS. And is connected to a heater. The heater produces a power of this. Okay. ये heater की power आ गई ठीक है. This is the output power. Yeah, you can say this is the power of the secondary coil. Okay. You have to calculate the current in the primary coil. Okay. आपने current in the primary coil निकालना है. How will you do that? This is a very good question of transformers. I thought it was easy, but this will require some working. Okay. First of all, can you realize you have the output voltage? Yes. You have the secondary power as well. हम एक काम कर सकते हैं. We can do one thing. First of all, let's apply the first formula of transformers. NP over NS is equals to VP over VS. What is the number of turns on the primary coil? 5500. 500 on the secondary. What is VP? We don't know. What is VS? 110. This becomes 1. This becomes 11. Primary voltage क्या आ जाता है? 11 into 110. Primary voltage comes out to be 1210 volts. Now, please, I want your undivided attention. Can you see the power in the secondary coil or the power in the heater is 132 watts? Now, this is a property of a 100% efficient transformer. Beta 100% efficient transformer जब भी होगा, the power in the secondary coil will be equal to the power in the primary coil. Power in the primary coil is equal to the current in the primary coil multiplied by the voltage in the primary coil. Power in the primary coil क्या है? 132. Current in the primary coil निकालना है. Voltage क्या है? 1210. Can you calculate the current in the primary coil? Yes, 132 divided by 1210. बताओ बेटा current in primary coil क्या आता है? The current in primary coil comes out to be 0.0 1 ampere. A is your answer. 32 का आंसर comes out to be simple A. अच्छा जी आगे बढ़ते. The scattering of alpha particle from a thin gold foil produces the following observation. Most of the alpha particles pass through the foil. Yeah, most of the alpha particles are virtually undeflected. A small fraction of the alpha particles are deflected through large angles. A very small fractions bounce back. ठीक है, ये चारों ही सही है observation. Which conclusion does not follow from these observations? अच्छा जी कौन सी conclusion correct नहीं है? Most of the mass of the gold atom is in the nucleus. Yeah, this is correct. Most of the atom is empty space. The nucleus consists of protons. ये तो हमें पता चल गया था कि nucleus consists of protons. But alpha particle scattering experiment does not tell about neutrons. So C is incorrect. बेटा अल्फा पार्टिकल स्कैटरिंग एक्सपेरिमेंट जो है उसमें हमें न्यूट्रॉन्स की प्रेजेंस का कोई पता नहीं चला था. सी इज इनकरेक्ट. दिस इज एन इनकरेक्ट कंक्लूजन. प्लीज मार्क सी एज योर आंसर. अब आ जाओ 34 पे बेटा. अ न्यूक्लियस ऑफ क्लोरीन हैज दिस सिंबल. व्हाट इज द न्यूक्लियर नंबर ऑफ दिस न्यूक्लियाइड ऑफ क्लोरीन? न्यूक्लियर नंबर कहाँ होता है? टॉप साइड पे. दिस इज योर न्यूक्लियर नंबर. 35. सी इज योर आंसर. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Which change occur in a nucleus during beta emission? बेटा बीटा emission के दौरान कौन सा चेंज अकर करता है? हाँ जी. A neutron converts into a proton and one electron. 35 का आंसर is C. आगे बढ़ते हैं बच्चों. The graph shows how the count rate registered by a counter near to a sample of a radioactive isotope changes over a period of few days. The background count rate is 5 counts per minute. What is the half life of the isotope? बेटा करंटली आपका काउंट रेट क्या है? 45. 45 माइनस 5, दिस बिकम्स 40. ये आपका करेक्टेड काउंट रेट है. आफ्टर वन हाफ लाइफ द काउंट रेट बिकम्स 20. You add back the background radiation, that is 5. This comes out to be 25. आपका काउंट रेट 25 कब हो रहा है? Here. This time taken is the time taken for the number of nuclei to half. This is your half life. The half life comes out to be 2 days. बेटा स्टेप बाय स्टेप सुन लो मैंने क्या किया. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई टुक द इनिशियल काउंट रेट. इनिशियल काउंट रेट में से बैकग्राउंड रेडिएशन हटा दी. आपके पास करेक्टेड काउंट रेट आ गई 40. आफ्टर वन हाफ लाइफ दिस काउंट रेट हाफ 20 हो जाती है. 20 में बैकग्राउंड रेडिएशन फिर से ऑफ कर दो. दिस बिकम्स 25. 25 का काउंट रेट इज आफ्टर हाउ मेनी डेज? 2 days. हाफ लाइफ टर्न्स आउट टू बी 2 days. A is your answer. Which row about the orbits of Earth and the Moon is correct? Approximate time for the Earth to orbit the Sun 365 days. Option A और B cancel out हो गया. ठीक है. Approximate time for the Moon to orbit the Earth. Moon कितना टाइम लेता है Earth को ऑर्बिट करने के लिए? 30 days. D is your answer. Which statement about the orbits of comets are correct? Comets have elliptical orbits and the Sun is not at the center of the orbit. B is your answer. 39 पे आ जाओ. Which row describes the power source for a stable star? Stable star में क्या हो रहा होता है? Fusion. Fuel is hydrogen. C is your answer. Which quantity can be determined using the brightness of a supernova in a distant galaxy? हाँ जी. Always remember the brightness of a supernova tells you the distance of the galaxy from the Earth. B is your answer. This marks the end of this paper. This was a good paper. Please go through it once again. If you have any questions, you can ask in the comments.